Did you hear what happened with Better Mortgage or Better.com today?
Yeah. Oh, where they where they fired like 9% over Zoom.
Yeah, there's 900 jobs lost over Zoom today or yesterday.
Yeah. It's just like you can't. I think that's awful. I've never been a fan of their model because you can't. I feel like I'll have too many opinions that might not be okay. But yeah, you can't survive on the model that they're working on. You just can't.
Well, I put a video out on Instagram and YouTube today talking about that, like how tough this business really is, and that you can't. It's really challenging to. It's 7 a.m. in Texas. I must have put it for 7 a.m. today. My bad. All right. So, well, that is what it is. When you try to put these together, like at 7 in the morning, and it automatically puts you at 7 a.m. Yeah, it's all good. So live stream is not at 7 a.m. It's 7 p.m. So everybody that's gonna get on this live stream tonight is gonna get an extra treat. But okay, so REALMigos, we are here with our star guest who just totally bailed out. I don't know where she yeah, what's going on? We're losing people. And now Ian's screen froze. Okay, technical difficulties at 7 a.m.
Did it really?
Yeah, you're frozen.
What?
I'm still here.
I look super clear on my screen.
No, you're froze, bro.
Yeah,
get out of here, both of y'all.
How did you back, man? This is.
I think it was you.
Yeah, you better come back in.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah, Ian's out. Remove. Kick him out.
2 seconds in, we already have technical difficulties.
Yeah, geez. Okay, well, okay. So today on what's the most dangerous neighborhood in Austin? That's not part of today's topic, but maybe we'll answer that one later. So we have Sarah Morris, White Morris. What is it now? I forget.
It's Sarah Morris.
Okay.
There's a white in there, but not legally. So just Morris will be.
Okay. Yeah, be careful how you say that. So, Kevin's with us today. Sarah, we're going to go through and we're going to talk about mortgages. I got a whole list of things to talk about. We're going to talk about mortgages today, all that fun stuff. The new variant in Realtor.com says it's going to impact the housing market. We'll talk about that. Realtor.com talks about balanced housing market in 2022. We're going to go over kind of our takes on what Redfin's saying is going to happen next year. And then Bloomberg's popping out articles with my name in it. So we'll talk about that too. Yes, musical chairs tonight. So Benevolent Beret is finally back. Are you unfroze?
Yeah. I'm good.
Oh, he's got jokes.
So as we were jumping on here, we were kind of talking about, and I kind of hit the play button early. We were talking about what's kind of gone on in the market recently. Kevin was talking about how he feels like it slowed down a little bit for him in December. Ian, he didn't really say much. He was just sitting looking pretty. And then Sarah was talking about investors that were saying they wanted, really cheap rates right now towards the end of the year. So we'll start with Sarah talking about that, and we'll roll into some really good mortgage news, or bad, however you look at it.
Sure. So yeah, I've been getting an increase in investors reaching out and just trying to get in on this market before, I guess now that the Fed came out talking about maybe trying to finish tapering early and all that stuff. So trying to get in before the new year. And so I had, for instance, someone today that wanted to close a jumbo loan by the end of the month. And they only wanted to put 15 to 20% down, which most jumbo loans are going to be 20 to 25. And this is an investment property. Sometimes you can get lower for a primary, and wanted like a 2.99 rate. And that's just not realistic in this market at all, especially for an investment property. And I think a lot of things that investors need to know is that an investment property is going to have a higher rate than a primary residence or a second home. And the down payment, especially on a jumbo loan, which now is going to be anything over a $647,200 loan amount, is going to be more strict as well with their guidelines. So you're going to usually have a minimum of a 20% down. And for better pricing, which is rate, it's going to be usually a 25% down payment. And so that's just something really important to know. Also, I've had a lot of calls lately too asking me about if something's fraud or not, which I appreciate them asking. That's it. I mean, it's good I'd rather you ask the question and not do it, hopefully, than ask the question and, because you're trying to do it. But I've had a lot of more people. I've had at least 5 calls in the last 2 weeks that are like, oh, well, what if I just buy this as a primary and then I sell it or I rent it out in a couple months? It's like, if your intent is to have this as an investment, you cannot buy this as a primary residence because that is fraud. There's an increase in investigations of those over the last year and a half. So just don't do it. It's just not worth it.
So here's a great question. Yes, my jacket is YSL. It's YSL approved, but I got it at the Baby Gap is where I got it at. But so how far in advance do you lock in a mortgage rate? Because this is one thing I'm hearing, and I'm sure, gentlemen, are you hearing this too, is that with stuff that's closing next year, right? I got a lot of stuff that's under contract, new build. People wanting to put in, wanting to lock in now. Should people be locking in now or just roll the dice next year?
Yeah. So, I mean, so it depends on when next year we're talking about. And it also depends on what lender you're working with because every lender has different locking capabilities and extended lock options. Some mortgage companies don't have any. I know personally, we have extended lock options up to 280 days, which is really beneficial if you think that we are going to be seeing a big rate increase. But it needs to make financial sense for you at the end of the day. So like there's certain types of extended locks where it's just additional cost. So if it makes sense to spend extra like $1,000 to have, like a 6-month lock, yeah, that could make a lot of sense for somebody. If they can get in, and lock in at like a 3.125 or a 3.25 now, sure. But if you if you're going to have an increase to rate for that extended lock, then that's something you really need to talk to your mortgage professional about and see if that makes sense. Because it might make more sense to hold out and then buy down the rate a little bit, or hold out and you might end up getting the same rate as if you were to lock in early and then have that additional, rate piece tacked on to it. But I know that that's a conversation I'm having with a lot of my clients, and we're staying really on top of communicating with the sales rep and the builder as well as the client to see what stage they are in building, because it's just so hard right now. Because I've had several, you guys seen it, I'm sure, where a lot of people that are supposed to close this summer, I have one that just got into framing. And then and there's several that were supposed to close like this month. And they're like, yes, you can lock. The builder even said, we're confident you can lock in. It's good. And then they got pushed out another month. But there's at least one builder out there that we worked with that agreed to pay for that lock extension fee in that instance, because we locked according to the builder being like saying, no, we're definitely closing. And then something happened. That's rare, but it did happen with us, luckily, and our client. But I would say definitely if you are having a home that's supposed to be closing or finishing up in the next couple of months, talk to your mortgage professional about getting locked in now to see, if that makes financial sense for you to do.
What builder?
Oh, that actually gave the credit?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Never heard of that.
Him.
Get out of here.
No, we were really surprised it happened. I will, let me look into that and get back to you because I don't remember which builder it was, but I can easily find out.
And then are you, like, in your profession, do you experience a lot of people that either A, buy down the rates, or B, pay more to lock in? Or is it mostly par for the course where people are just like, I'll deal with it, and they just pay whatever the normal costs are?
So it depends on what type of client they are. Like if I have a savvy client that is really into their finances and that knows, or that really wanted a specific rate, like especially when we're on that cusp still of the 2s. And we were like, okay, well, we can still get you something in the 2s and let's lock now. They were all for it. It was like, okay, well, if I'm just going to spend extra $1,000 or $500, whatever it is to secure my like 2.875 or 2.99, I'm going to do that. Because I think having that extra level of security means a lot, because this is a rate that's going to stay with you for, 30 years, 20 years, whatever that will.
Well, let's be honest, it's going to stay with you at most 10 years.
True.
I mean,
according to averages.
yeah, just to be honest. So, that's a good question. So, I mean, I'm having a lot of clients really scrutinize lenders and trying to find the best rate. Are you guys running into that as well, guys? Not Sarah, running into that too? Investors trying to get the lowest rate they can right now, or are you just they trying to get into anything they can?
So my experience is a lot of investors are trying to get in just about anything they can. I have a certain.
Are you seeing more investors right now, like Sarah said?
I think, yeah, Sarah said that. I've seen a few. Like you and I have actually worked on a couple, and
We have a couple working, yeah.
It's good. It's interesting that they're coming out of nowhere. Like, like they pause for a little bit, and I'm assuming that it's all of the other news that we hear about the speculation of interest rates going up and just that kind of stuff. And well, also the announcement. Anytime we have an announcement of some big company, people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna go buy there and rent." Don't think you're the only person that had that idea.
Yeah,
that's just not how it works. Everybody's like, "I should do this."
Kevin, you said you're slowing down, or you feel like it's slower, or you're bored. How do you put it? What are you seeing?
I mean, like a lot of the people that I've worked with, this is a weird time. Oh, right now. I mean, if you haven't written a contract right now to close before the end of the year, there's really not much value in writing one anytime between now and January, to be honest with you. So, I'm working more on the I don't know what to say on that side, but a lot of the people that I'm working with, they're keeping an eye out, but because there's really not much to buy right now, it's not like there's not much motivation.
3,400 units on the market.
Yeah. And the ones I did see, there's a couple that were, for investors I was looking at that are kind of the tail end of this, people that thought that they were going to get top dollar, have been on the market for a couple months, and there's a reason why they're still there. Like one of the neighborhoods I looked at, the only home that was there was an open door listing.
Well, I've noticed that too. When I'm searching in that 350 to 400 price point, 450 maybe, I'm not gonna lie, 8 out of 10 it seems like, and it could be an exaggeration, but it's probably close. Maybe it's 7 out of 10 are either Open Door, Zillow, or OfferPad, or some sort of iBuyer.
I've seen
and
that too.
it's number one, it's hard to get a hold of somebody, and you got to write sometimes on their contracts, and it's like, geez, do I even want my client to go through the headache of this?
Yeah. There's like a lot of weird investing energy right now, though, regardless. And we'll talk about that, I'm sure, a little bit more. Just I think a lot of people are being really cautious with their money right now from an investment standpoint. I don't know that there's much value to I don't see much FOMO going on at the moment. Even this recent dip in recovery in the market and crypto markets has been not really an enthusiastic rebound. It's just been okay, this is the obvious thing to do, but I still think people are kind of hanging out just to see what's going to happen in the next couple of months with this weird energy.
Well, yeah, the FOMO usually comes from somebody who's never experienced any of the variations, the striations, and investing.
Mm-hmm. I did find that builder. It was Paysetter.
Really? That was not an expectation right there. Oh, cool.
You and I had the same reaction almost instantly. Like, what? So, a couple weeks ago, I put out a video talking about the October numbers being higher than month over month in the previous month. Looking at the data that I've seen so far, I'm anticipating November being the same, being higher numbers than as far as sales price. Maybe not sales volume, because they're going to do year over year. But I think the sales volume for Austin is going to be about the same as it was November to October, but you're going to see lower amount of inventory. So I think we're about a month inventory. We'll probably be back down to 0.9, maybe 0.8, probably 0.9 most likely. And then when we look at the December numbers, depending on how many people actually go under contract, I think you'll see the December numbers be, we're at 3,400 units right now. So maybe 7 months inventories, maybe 6 going into January. But I think we will see, I anticipate, and maybe we should talk about this later, but I anticipate seeing more inventory January. But the articles that we have are stating that people are going to be scared of the new variant and they're not going to list. So we'll talk about that. But Sarah, let's get back to you real quick. There's so much mortgage news that's coming out right now. Give us, here's a good question we had. Obviously, our interest rate's going to go up between now and Christmas. So we have three things going on with mortgages, right? Number one, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac just announced their loan limits are going to be higher. Number two, we have jumbo loans are now going to be higher. So we'll talk about that. And then three, interest rates. Everybody's talking interest rates going up. I think interest rates are going to go down, but we'll talk about that. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So, the loan limits, the Fannie Freddie Mac loan limit going up was great. Actually, it's the biggest increase that we've seen. And I think that's going to allow, I think it's really in line with what we've been seeing with the price increases, and it's going to allow more people to purchase homes and be in the market versus either not being able to because they can't meet the harder jumbo loan guidelines or the first and second lien guidelines. And so with the lower down payment requirements, lower credit score requirements, and lower reserve requirements, I don't think a lot of people understand that there's different types of jumbo loans, right? But there's some out there that require 36 months of reserves. And so you could be an excellent borrower, like great credit, income, everything, and then that's what counts you out. So I think that even though and we can get into this later, like some people are saying, oh no, it's bad that these limits are going up. I think that it's a good thing because it's going to allow more people to buy that weren't able to because they just weren't able to get that jumbo loan. So now they can get it with conventional. As far as like the rates themselves, so right now I think the main news too that I want to point out is the inflation piece. Right. So Powell came out and it's not transitory inflation anymore. It's like,
oh, shocker. We could have all.
I know. Right. And so now he's admitted like deflation it's hotter than we thought. And it's a bigger problem than they originally thought. And so now we're like keeping eyes on the December 15th Fed meeting because they want to see if they're going to speed up tapering, because the whole way to combat the inflation problem is to finally raise the federal funds rate. And so and the only way they can do that is speed up the tapering first. Are you talking, Jeremy? Am I missing you?
Sorry. Yeah, my dog was barking. I was trying to mute myself. So what does that mean though? If the Fed rate raises, what does that actually mean for interest rates? Sorry, for the person that doesn't know in the room.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of people get the federal fund rate confused directly with, mortgage interest rates. So the federal fund rate is something it's not directly tied. It will have it could cause like an increase in mortgage rates just because, and I'll get into that because of how it ties together. But really with the federal fund rate increases, you're going to really see that more directly with like direct consumer debt, like your like a car loan, like credit cards, things like that. And you're not really going to be like, oh, the federal fund rate increases, and so now mortgage rates are going to increase a whole point. It's not that direct because it has more to do with the buying and selling of bonds and treasuries. And it's and by increasing the federal fund rate, the government is hoping to decrease the economy and slow it down so we can combat inflation. And so that's the point. Anyway.
So we're looking for December 15th. But so if they say that, so we are anticipating rates to increase is what you're saying.
Yeah. Possibly. So what I'm saying is my projection for 2022, I think that's kind of where we're getting at, right? So my projection for 2022 is that we are going to see a gradual increase in rates. I think by the end of 2022, we're probably going to be somewhere in like the like high threes, like high threes, maybe low fours, just depending on where your credit is and what type of loan product we're looking at, what type of property we're looking at, just because with inflation, whenever there's an inflation issue and they're trying to stabilize the economy, like you're going to have an increase in rate because the whole goal is to help slow down the economy, to help combat the inflation problem, to help combat the supply chain problem. That's not what people want. That's not what people want to hear. But I see, unless like something happens with the variant that causes us to shut down again or something like that, then that would cause a decrease, right? That would cause rates to go back down. That's kind of like the X factor. But besides that, right now, rates are projected to probably be the same towards the beginning, first and second quarter, and slowly increase, and probably, I think, mid to high threes by the end of the year.
Mid to high threes. So
Do you feel like once they start rising, they'll never be back at this point again? Do you have that like feeling in your gut?
So obviously I don't have a crystal ball, right? I guess everyone says that, but I feel that the insane lows that we saw, like I was able to lock in people at like 1.9, 1.85%, like in a loan, which is nuts. I don't know if we'll ever see that again. I really don't, because look at what had to happen for us to get there, right? And I don't think any of us want that to happen again. But I can never say never, but it's highly unlikely, in my opinion, unless something else happens, that we'll get back down to those low of lows.
Share your screen again, because you actually had some really great slides that you were showing before. For those that are saying that interest rates raising is going to cause the market to crash, that the amount of people, we're losing people in the world. So that means that we're going to have less people to buy in the future. So that's going to make the market crash. You were showing some stats that kind of went against that. So I'm curious if you could bring that back up. Here we go.
Yeah, sure. So, this was the loan limits.
Yeah. So to answer the question, what are the loan limits for conforming and FHA? You have them right there.
Yeah. So if you're interested in this, you can find this anywhere. For Austin surrounding area, it's for one unit, it's 647,200. So that's what you would be looking at there. And then
what credit score do you need to be able to lock in at 2%? Like a 10,000 credit score?
If you want to lock in, you can pay for that. I mean, you can still pay to get a 2% rate. It's not going to be pretty, but and it depends. Well, it really depends on what term we're talking about as well. If we're talking about, like a 15-year, then a 2% is still pretty reasonable. Like it might be like cost you a little bit in points. Yesterday I quoted someone and it was like a 2.25. So it's really not that bad still. But if you're talking about a 30-year, it's not worth it. Like you're going to be spending so much money. It's just not worth it. Are
refis slowing down?
Yes, refis are definitely slowing down. I feel, and I've been telling people this for a while now, like if you were ever still on the fence of refinancing, you need to take advantage of it now. And I think the biggest advantage right now are those folks that have seen such big appreciations in their home and have so much equity, because this is probably the cheapest time that you'll ever be able to borrow money and borrow the equity from your home before rates go up even more. And so because this last year, people saw 18% increase. Some people saw 20% appreciation in their homes, and that's huge. So what I've seen now is I do have refinance clients that are doing cash out refinances to pay off all their high interest debt, to convert from like an FHA to a conventional, get rid of PMI, those types of things, where it still makes sense for them to do. But it's going to, as rates continue to increase, it might not make as much sense for them. So if you are on the fence to do that, I recommend talking to someone now while rates are still lower, personally.
I love this chart.
Yeah, so this is the explosive growth chart. So I know when I was on last time before, I was saying, hey, like the average first time home buyer is 33 years old. Okay. And so this goes into, these are the birth rates. So this is the number of US births by year and generation. And this is where we're at. So you can see that over like the next 3 years, we have an increase, like a pretty large increase of first-time home buyers coming into the market to buy their first home.
If you're on the fence of smashing the like button, do it now. Thanks, Joel.
So, I mean, people keep saying no, it's going to be like these. They keep bringing 2008 in, which it's not, to me, it's not even comparable to 2008. I think that's a ridiculous comparison, but also because it goes to supply and demand. And I have this so to kind of put it, let me see. Okay, here. So inventory versus demand. So we don't have the end of 2021 numbers. So this is based off 2020 numbers. Okay. So this is the percentage of inventory versus the demand in the year. Okay. And so in 2007, before 2028, Thanks, Master Jedi. Okay, so in 2007, you can see that we had a lot of inventory. We had more inventory than demand. That was part of the problem. But now, for the 2020 numbers, we had only 1.2 million of inventory for over 12 million households. So there's no way like we've even met that, and we're still deficient. And I was in a call this morning, and the projected numbers for 2021 is we're still 4.4 million behind in inventory for the year. So it's just we're not there. If we had excess inventory, then yes, that could be a problem. We could maybe see some similarities there. But it's just the inventory is not there, and then we have more people in the market to buy. So how could we be in a bad, how could we slow down? I think the biggest problem is how are we going to get more houses out there for people to buy?
And we'll get into that here shortly, because I want to pull up the Redfin article and then the new variant article that Realtor put out. But in fact, I mean, I almost feel like bringing up the Redfin article now. But what Redfin is saying, and maybe we'll talk about it a little more detail, but what Redfin is saying is that at the beginning of the year, we're going to have a mad dash for people buying homes, and because interest rates. And then as we get to the middle of the year, it'll slow down, and then it'll dive off towards the end of the year because we'll see more inventory from new builds. And that actually goes to the article on Bloomberg that I did with Bloomberg. The Bloomberg guy kept asking me over and over and over again, are you worried about all this inventory hitting the market? Are you worried about all this builder inventory hitting the market? I said, yeah, it's something to think about, but let's go actually talk to some builders. All these builders all this stuff that we have available wouldn't close till July anyway. Mm-hmm. Anybody we put under contract now isn't going to close until 2023. So how much inventory do you really think we're going to have towards the end of 2022? I don't think it's going to be as much as they think it is. In fact, the guy who wrote the article for Bloomberg that I was in, even literally was I'm seeing him seeing the realization set in of what was going on. He's talking to this rep, and all of a sudden you could just see oh shit. It hit him that what's actually happening. And he wrote a very good article. I think, for not being a fan of the media, he definitely, his whole thing when he went to write that article was legitimately about how the market's going to be crashing in 2022. He wouldn't talk about that in the article once he talks to people. So anyway, sorry, I'm rambling. My bad. Sarah, hi.
No, I mean, I read the article. I thought it was a great article too, because I thought it was very realistic about what's actually happening and what everyone's seeing. Because I mean, as far as a client perspective, once I get a contract with a client going under contract for new construction, I mean, the new contracts right now, it's probably going to be 2023, and it's just pushed out. And I think I'm curious, Jeremy, if those numbers were done based off housing starts, because I know once the permitting comes, they do one number off of permitting and one off of housing starts for new builds, but then it's how long is it going to take? I think what you were saying, to actually complete this out because of supply chain issues, labor.
Well, here's so there are people out there that saying the market's going to crash because of the new build starts. That was one. I feel like this person has been grasping at straws, and every time they are kind of wrong, they grasp at another group of straws to say the market's going to crash. And they were using that metric. And we've put out on this channel several times, what is actually happening in the market is that, that whole article was a great example. Nobody can get windows. Nobody can get stuff. I mean, you guys are you not seeing the same thing, Kevin and Ian?
My big thing. So I was going around to a bunch of builders this weekend, and they were talking about trusses. So the roof truss, the way it works is they get an allotment per community, and it didn't matter who the builder is, right? So this community might get 16 for the month. So whatever builders are in there, that developer is only going to allow 16 houses that month to be completed because of this trust issue. So it's still very much a concern.
What about you, Senor? You're very quiet up there.
Yo, Jeremy. I mean, I just don't have much from the new build side because the new builds I've done recently have not been constrained at all. So, that they've been surprisingly available. Now, I will say they were in New Braunfels and Kyle. So maybe it's the sub-market, which I like those markets anyway for new builds at the moment. But it was a big difference between the same builder, the availability of those homes in New Braunfels and Kyle versus the availability of the same exact home in anywhere north of Austin. Like it was a completely different story. And I know like Ian is probably talking about north suburbs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
North and east. Yeah.
Story.
Yeah. Rob was right. I was over in
Yeah.
Manor, Lagos earlier.
Yeah.
And
But I do see, some of the builders, like one of my clients was trying to get into a new build in Hutto, an affordable price point. And they were
what's an affordable price point?
Yep. Right
that
now.
was actually $300,000.
Yeah.
It was Taylor. It was between Hutto and Taylor. It was a $300,000, $285,000. And
was this an investor or a
no, it was
primary?
a homeowner occupant.
That's pretty good.
They said, and that's why it was like surprising because I called and I was like, hey, what's the deal? Is this an expired deal? Is this a marketing ploy from last year? And he's like, no, this is coming up. We have 16 allocated. We don't have release dates for them yet. We're not going to tell you when the release date is, but we'll release them incrementally. And it won't even be a bid system. It will be, you come get it and it's yours kind of deal. So I thought that was pretty neat, but still it was like, it was just discouraging because that was 2 months ago. And they even told them like, listen, we're not going to do anything till at least January. So it's probably going to be January or February before something even happens. So it's the same stuff. It's the same stories, right? So
builders are in a really good spot right this very second, in that just the part that they know that they have people that want their houses, and they know that there are a lot of people that will kind of wait, right? So they build up these lists. They've been building them up for a while, and some people fall off. But I mean that they're like budgeting for the next year. It's great with them.
So I had a client reach out to me from San Diego today, and they're like, "Hey, I saw this one on Redfin or whatever, realtor.com, whatever, and this one and this one and this one. See, they have these prices. It's 521 in Leander. It's 521 in Brushy Creek." I'm like, okay, well, let me look at this.
Yeah.
It's the 521 plus.
Yep.
And there's no date, there's no address, there's no hard price. So these builders are still going out there and spending marketing dollars trying to get people onto their lists, even though really they don't have. In fact, when we were in San Diego Ranch, they were saying the Scott Felder rep was like, yeah, we have these 10 available. And the guy was like, oh, so you have 10 available. He's like, well, no, they're not going to be done until June, July. And then we're going to open up, 40 more lots, but those won't be done until 2023. And we're marketing for those.
You're saying marketing dollars, but like people are going there because they want the product. And so somebody earlier said, what if you're driving by a billboard and it says, 200 to 300s, starting in the low 200s?
400s.
It's not, but people don't know, and they still show up and they still end up on the list. They don't have to market anything right now.
Oh yeah. 200s was actually 7 months ago. We're actually in the 600s now. So do you want to buy a 600s house?
Right. And then also you have a lot of builders that have relationships with some kind of listing agent or might even list it on their own. Right. And so if they do that, they're not paying the marketing. They're not really paying the marketing dollars. They're just putting it on the MLS, putting one of them on the MLS and then letting people flock.
Yeah.
I actually think the builders do a really terrible job. If you're watching this in your
they're not spending any.
I think you're doing a terrible job in marketing, to be honest with you. Maybe it's because you feel like you don't need to, but how pride comes before the fall, because
absolutely. It will end up catching up.
Yeah, it'll catch up to them. I just feel like if they did a better job, like for example, if you're really trying to get rid of realtors, which I'm not suggesting that you do, but I think you're trying to do it anyway, like having better website availability and data, even for realtors, so that we are not like blowing up your local sales folks to be like, hey, my client saw this listing on Zillow for your house. Is it available or is it not? Or like, what's the deal? That for me is unacceptable. You like literally only sell one thing, houses, and you only have like 3 outlets to show houses on places. So why is that data even remotely out of date? Right. So I don't know. I just think they're doing a really poor job. I think they could sell even more houses than, or at least build your marketing list a little bit deeper, have people built onto contracts for years to come.
Innovation comes from necessity. They haven't had to. Right. And then the ones that don't, guess where they go?
Well,
they get acquired.
But the thing is, they're builders, not marketing experts.
Right.
Yeah, but if you want to talk to people are like, well, the real estate market's ripe for disruption. I've been hearing that my whole life. I've been hearing it since I was in college, and I didn't give a shit about real estate. Right. Like, this market's up for disruption. It's ripe for disruption. I honestly feel like the disruptible part easily could be the builders, because they're most antiquated in their practices in how they market, build, everything else.
I want to say that's the real estate industry in general, though. That's not exclusive to builders.
I don't think it's the entire industry, though. I don't. I mean, we can debate that, I guess. Yeah. I'd like to hear your point on that, why you think it's that way, but maybe more parts of it. But I don't know. I think the disruption is not the type of disruptions that people have been trying for the last decade.
We still have title companies that will not let you close remotely.
Yeah.
Like most of them.
Yeah.
But that's not always up to the title company. A lot of times that's
or virtually. Sorry, virtually is different than remotely, but that's a big deal.
The virtual versus remote on that, it also, like, if you're talking about virtual, like remotely, the only reason why you couldn't get a mobile notary and close remotely was if you're doing a cash out refi in Texas. Legally, you cannot do it that way. You have to go into a title company. You have to go into an office. That's a law. But as far as the virtual closings, that's also going to be specific on the loan type, on the lender, and then also on the title company. So there's a lot of different places at play, or pieces in play for those pieces. But I can understand, especially during COVID, of that being very frustrating.
I wonder how many legislators have ownership interest in title companies.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of realtors that have ownership. I mean,
I feel like that's nothing wrong. That's another part of the industry that I'm ready to disrupt, to be honest with you. So
I strongly still agree that it's not right when you have a builder that has ownership in a in-house lender, in a in-house title company, and who knows what else.
Realtors as well.
But they don't have ownership. They don't have ownership. They're all separate entities.
And insurance. They're getting not just title, but actual.
Oh yeah, and their insurance company. Yeah, you're right, Ian.
They're subsidiaries, so they can do that.
Yeah.
And then in the contract, they say we have to notify you. We have ownership interest in these entities, and then
they list 9 entities, and you're like, oh wow.
Well, but what do you think real estate companies are doing right now? Keller Williams already started doing this. Compass. The only way Compass now can grow their balance sheet to make their investors happy is they're purchasing. They purchased real estate brokers to build their volume, and now they're purchasing title companies. Mm-hmm. So that's the only way that they feel like they can make money. So,
it's going to be interesting with fair lending laws and everything that goes into that, how that is going to work and be okay. Because I still think because with builders, it's a gray area.
So it's a gray area that's not going to get fixed. And I'm going to tell you why. It is easy. If me as a realtor, if I wanted to, I could set up an LLC, start a business, and have a lender be on my payroll with that lending company. And I'm just a subsidiary. As long as I'm disclosing that I have ownership in that company, Sarah could be working for me and I could be making extra money off Sarah off of every deal. I don't do that, but there are agents out there that do that. I've been approached by lenders to actually set up something like that. So you can do the same thing as long as you have things held outside of you and in not necessarily shell companies, but other outside LLCs. You can do that. I mean, if I wanted to buy a title company and close everything at that title company, there are ways that I could do that. I don't think they have time or the energy to go fight that. They're too busy announcing today that they're going to go after money laundering for cash, full cash pricing, full cash homes. Okay. So that's because they're going after money laundering because of some shell company in UK did something. So that's what they're worried about. They're worried about big fish, not little fish. And at some point it'll probably come back to bite agents in the butt and people that do that kind of like dirty thing. I find it icky that the builder has control over the title company, which always sucks. I've never had great experience with any builder's title company. Number two, the lenders that they have are, in my opinion only, this is my opinion, freedom of speech, First Amendment, aren't that great. They have terrible communication. And then if you want to like sell your, like say you walk into the builder and you go, hey, I'm thinking about selling my house. You're like, oh, great. We have a realtor that can help you. And everybody's getting kickbacks every way. Like, do you really think that that's best for you?
No.
The thing is, when you start listening to other people in the industry talk, usually it's my husband or my wife is a lender, and then I'm the realtor, and then my mom does this or my cousin, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, because it's the same thing, right? On paper, it's the same thing. You're just not disclosing it at that point. You're still double dipping and triple dipping.
I don't know that the title. Well, maybe it does make a little bit of a difference. I was trying to think if the title company, if it makes a difference where it's housed, because I'm not sure that there's a benefit or detriment one way or the other.
If the title company's with the builder, or
maybe I'm not thinking about it right, but no, I think if the lender is, that's a problem.
I mean, I will say that I don't always have I haven't had always the best experience with builder title companies. Like, and I'm not going to say that that's a blanket statement for everyone by any means, but usually what we've experienced is they have the higher escrow fee, but with the least with harder communication and not as much work behind it.
There's no work.
You know what they say? They say it would have been much smoother if we would have used our own, like our in-house.
Tell me why it takes more than 24 hours for a new build title company to do all the title work. What are they checking against? It was developed land that already was clear before, and you just parceled it out. Are you checking?
Well, there's been lawsuits over it not being done correctly, and in Georgetown there was a huge issue there.
But what did they not do? Did they not check any of the lots when they subdivided them? Like, what is taking so long?
Were you talking about where the chain of title was messed up and they didn't actually have the right to sell, and it was this huge big lawsuit thing a long time ago?
Yeah, that was a Georgetown thing.
Imagine if your chain of title was on the blockchain and you could actually review that.
I mean, you told me that 2 months ago, and I thought you were 3 months ago, and I thought you were crazy. More and more I learn about blockchain, I think you're on the money.
I believe that the all title transfers and the entitled title search should be on the blockchain, searchable by anyone, and the title companies should use the blockchain instead of recording at the county. Did you know you don't even have to record at the county? You don't even have to do that. I'm not going to go into that one. So I'm going to say that for another day.
I have a random question. Though. Kind of random. It goes into the construction. Nice.
Moira.
So I've started noticing, though, that going back to the construction and it taking so long to get these things done and all the delays, I've started having clients asking for updated pre-approval letters to start looking at resales because it's taking so long. Have you guys seen that?
I've had a couple. Yeah. I have. That's a good point, because people are just getting fed up with waiting, right? Yeah.
But then they go into the market and then they go into multiple offers all over again. Look, in the last week, Ian, a prime example, we have an investor that we've been helping, and I wrote multiple offers, 25 grand over list price. I was out of town last week at Tom Ferry event. Whoop, whoop. If anybody know who Tom Ferry was, he personally had me to his house.
Never heard of him.
Oh, that's awesome.
Biggest real estate coach on the planet. Asked me to come talk about YouTube in front of a bunch of people. So thank you, Tom Ferry. Where was I going with that? I was at Tom Ferry's house. What happened? Name drop. Humble brag. I don't know where I was going. Back up 20 seconds. Anyway.
Clients getting frustrated with building.
Investors.
Oh, investors. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's right. So I go to town and Ian puts him under contract because he's a man. Ian, don't tell people how high over list price, but they had to go over list price to get it, right?
Well, so, okay, we put in multiple offers and we were in multiple offers. On multiple
offers,
properties.
Not just one-on-one home, but
correct. Multiple offers on multiple properties. And we were over enough to where it's not, it's not something you dismiss. And one of the offers, it came back and they were like, yeah, you're not even the highest offer, but we like how you wrote the offer.
Yeah,
because that matters to people, right? And that there was a local lender and all that, like all those little things that you talk about on the channel, that matters. So we won the offer. We actually won both offers.
So that goes
a conversation
to this
for
question. Later. Where'd it go? What was the question? Joe had the bumping. Here you go. What's the best way to get your offer to go beyond just paying more? Any tips? So Joe, I have a quick question for you. Are you working with an agent currently, and what strategies are they using? I have plenty of strategies. You don't actually you could take a wonderful lender like Sarah and go, hey, Sarah, how good are the clients? Are you going to make sure they're going to close on time? And let's just remove all lending contingencies. Sarah and I have a contract right now. We did 0, gentlemen, listen to this.
I'm listening.
0 option time.
Yeah. Good.
No,
I mean, not good, but that's something.
Yeah, it's not good, but we had, it was pre-inspected. There was an inspection. So we, and it was an inspector we knew, but we went over list price, and Sarah's like, yeah, just waive everything. We'll make sure it happens. And guess what? Appraisal came back. We were way over list price. Sarah's appraisal, Sarah, $500 over. Barely got it. It doesn't matter, but we got it.
That's awesome.
So.
Yeah, that's good.
And we ended up getting able to get them signing early.
Yeah.
So they can go on vacation. So it was a pretty quick turnaround. We got the appraisal in less than 2 weeks. So yeah.
So what other tips would you guys give if somebody's getting frustrated with their realtor other than hire another realtor?
Jeremy, you asked me to give
your secrets.
The reason that you would want to hire me? I mean, come on.
It's
Oh, okay. I have some.
I told you, Jeremy, we were talking about this. I had some guy that called me Sunday, and he's like, hey, I got this house under contract. And then he starts asking me all these questions about well, what if I did this? And do you think it was a good deal? And this is how much I paid and this and that. And I was like, well, what does your realtor think? He's like, oh, I did it all myself. It's like, then why are you what value can I bring to you now?
Yeah, could have given you. That's something I see a lot too when I'm working with clients that are buying houses sight unseen. I have one right now. You have to put a lot of trust in a realtor when you're buying a house sight unseen. And so you got to make sure you have somebody legit. And if you don't, it is. Kevin, what's a tip that you would give?
I mean, and I'm not just saying this to have a realtor, but I do believe that I've gotten a lot of accepted contracts because of the way that I interact with the listing agent. Not because. So
did you show up naked to their house? How does this work?
I mean, how can they say no?
Yeah.
To a birthday suit and some mullet.
And a birthday suit with a Christmas jacket.
I'm gonna give you guys one. You ready for this? I'm gonna share an Ian tip. I have left, or my clients, not I, my clients have left gift cards with their offer letter hidden so that other people walking through the house can't see it, but somewhere where that the seller will find it.
That's pretty ballsy.
And it's just a letter, right? And it's a gift card basically saying, hey, thank you so much for allowing us the time to come see this. We know how busy it's been.
Mm-hmm. For some people, I think that makes a difference, and for some people, it don't.
Right. Absolutely. And you have to read the room when you walk into the house, and when you start perusing their Facebook and LinkedIn and stuff. Yeah, you got to look at it.
One of the things that had worked for me in the past, but this I think is only relative I'm not even going to say it, to be honest with you, because I don't want to encourage people to do that. But
Antone, do me a favor, drop the link. I want to read it because I'm doing a video about this topic here right now. So I do want to. Oh, you know what? No, I did read this.
I didn't hear about that, but I can run. I don't know if you've seen me. I can fight, but I can run too.
Yeah, that was a really unfortunate story because I think the guy was elderly, and so he just went over there, like, "Hey, what's up?" and then caught some.
That's awful.
That's
terrible.
Yeah.
One of the big things I'd say is just remembering that it's not just about price. Price is part of it, but
is he talking about my thing?
There's a lot of terms.
Shady.
I
It
think
is
that
shit.
it does come down to the seller because you'll have some that are all about price. They just want to get like the highest bottom line possible. And you have ones like I had a family member that I helped them on their loan, but the reason that they got that deal wasn't the highest one was because they were a retired couple that were teachers in education and they wanted another, you know, kind of quiet couple to move into the neighborhood that was sweet, would take care of their garden and
Yes. If they get a kick out of that, you're winning that offer. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best way to pull.
and so they ended up choosing, you know, the
100%.
my family member and his wife to buy the house because they just really connected with their letter. I know some people do letters, some people don't. I call listing agents. I negotiated this last weekend. I don't know if I was supposed to do that.
You know,
but I did. They
there's-
got the offer.
There's something to that. When your lender gets involved and calls, that speaks so much. Like that's very respectful. That feels like a lot of respect that you have to give to that buyer. Like Sarah, if you called me for my listing, I'd be like, oh, well, yeah. I mean, thanks for asking. I can't tell you this, but yeah.
I mean, it's just like in this market, especially like what we see in 2021, I'm always like, whatever I can do, you know, whatever I can do to help my clients. And it was so great because they were first time home buyers searching forever in like a $200,000 price point. And I called the listing agent and she was like, oh, you know, there's 2 cash offers that are a bit more. And that wasn't really in the thing. And I was like, okay, is there something they can do? Can they come back? And so we chatted and they ended up being able to put in another offer or whatever, and they ended up getting the house. So it was awesome. And now they're excited because now they have a home that's affordable. And
So what you're saying is it's important to have a good lender who understands what the hell is going on.
yes.
Okay, I like that. I can get on board with that. Would you gentlemen say the same thing?
120%. Yeah.
Kevin
Yeah,
hates
hold on a
lenders. He doesn't even want to.
I gotta go. I'll be right back.
I've lost the
All right.
deal from having bad lenders before. I'll say it that way. I had a lender. I don't know if I told you this. I had a lender like F-bomb cussing out one of my clients. Did I tell you that?
What?
Oh yeah, it was crazy. And I'm just sitting there and they're both calling me. So I'm sitting here playing middleman, which is my job, but it's different when they're that angry. Like, how did the miscommunication get to the point where you can't control exactly, you know, what you're trying to deliver? That was intense.
That's nuts. I don't
Yeah.
think I've never
As
been in a
lender,
situation.
your customer service. I understand saying I can't help you buy, right? But don't go that far.
Well, to me, it's a relationship business, you know, like that's part one. And then part two, I'm going to be honest with the information I give you. And
that's a big part of it.
I'm not going to sit there and try to like BS you just to get a deal and then be like, surprise.
I don't think people understand how lending works. And a lot of lenders will do that. They'll start off and they'll give you these numbers that aren't conservative, but they sound good on the phone for your pre-qual. And then they're hoping that, well, you're not going to check with another lender, so we'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and figure that out later.
There was a question earlier about here, or a comment about builders company not taking enough for tax and interest. So let me explain this. If you're using a lender who is the builder's lender, and you're using their title company, and the builder, I'm not going to say every builder does this, but a lot of builders that I go to and I'm in front of a client with, the question I ask first is, how much is the tax rate? What is the tax rate? What does that look like? And then that way I can tell my client, all right, look, we're looking at buying a $450,000 house. Just go off $450,000. That's what your taxes are going to be. And then what happens is the title company will not take out the full amount. So then it's up to you after close. And once that tax bill comes out, to go back to the title company and go back to the builder or the seller, whoever it was, and say, hey, by the way, you owe me more taxes. Like, they require that. Kevin's back. Sorry. And then secondly, if you're doing a build, working the builder and the lender's going off volume, right? And then that title company is going off volume, they're not going to get it all. So, and they're not going to really give a crap about you, to be honest. I mean, I hate to say that, but sometimes they don't. They have other things going on and they don't care about you. And so I mean, all right, that's kind of a harsh thing to say, but maybe they don't, or maybe they have too many things going on that they miss things. And then, yeah, your principal and interest are wrong. Your taxes go way high. And this is one of the things that on this channel I've been so diligent about, is telling people what the hell tax rates are and what that's going to do for them. I can't tell you how many sellers I've had in the past that bought a new build and then go, hey, I bought this new build 2 years ago. I'm not even calling the last realtor because they didn't tell me anything about the taxes. I can't afford my house anymore. The taxes are too high. And I've sold several homes like that.
I don't think people understand the tax rates, but also, you know, that the taxes, property taxes are paid in the rears, right? So when you're selling your house at the closing table, depending on when you're closing, they're taking and paying off or paying back the seller for paying the property taxes. But if you're buying something and they haven't already paid the property taxes, and this is really important, if they haven't already paid the property taxes, they're guessing on that number. So if it's off, you and the seller might actually have to go back and have a conversation about that.
Yeah, like one of the things that we try really hard on, like it depends, like you have new builds and you have resales, right? So that's like the two differences here. So if you have like a resale, then yes, you're exactly right. Like we have to go off of the most recent tax bill that came out, and then that's what you have to budget for your escrow and what to collect from the seller. And if there is a discrepancy, then per the contract, you have to get with that. However the agreement was, get with the seller and try to, you know, work that out. But the biggest thing I have seen, what Jeremy was saying, was with builds and with new builds. And I make it a point to talk to people about the difference of unimproved taxes and improved taxes. Unimproved taxes is where you're just charging taxes and escrowing for taxes off of the unimproved land. Improved taxes is when you're actually going off of what that final price point is for your home. And sometimes you have to project that number because it's not out yet, but some people are so excited because they have such a low, you know, monthly payment. It's because it's off unimproved taxes. And then they were never educated, or no one told them like, oh, you're going to have this huge jump next year and you're going to owe all this money. And that's so painful to me, especially for first time home buyers, because that's just not right. So I pretty much always go off improved taxes unless that borrower specifically tells me they don't want to, and we've had a conversation about it. But yeah, I mean, that is huge, and Jeremy's exactly right, and it can really push people out of being able to afford their payments and afford their house, especially as, you know, as we've seen appraised values and tax rates rise, you know, over this last year or so.
So to summarize that, if you're buying a new build and you don't already know what your taxes are going to be, you really need to look into that, because they're not going to be what the builder says they are for them. They're paying unimproved property taxes.
So I love this question by Monica. Monica, this is a fantastic question that every single one of us on here can answer. So how often do seller agents call the lender to gauge the client? 100, I can say for myself, on my listings, 100% of the time, I'm calling that lender. And if they're not a local lender, I am giving that agent a lot of crap. What do you guys think? And then we'll ask Sarah.
So you're going to go, Kevin?
No, go ahead, Kevin.
He's been quiet, man. I would say I feel like you have to, but I have been in, you know, I've had the listing and not had people call me. My lender. Sorry. I've been the buying agent and the agent hasn't called my lender multiple times.
But most times, like
80% of the time, nobody cares.
Yeah.
That's actually the more common. Nobody actually seems to care. Yeah. So, and you kind of know that, like, you know, we have our tricks. We look at their license numbers. We look at the brokerage, and we try to figure out if we know these agents, if they're any good, if they're platinum top 50 or something like that. Elite agents.
If I see an agent with a high 7,000 number, I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah, here we go.
But on the flip side, if I see an agent with a 3 or a 4,000, I'm like, oh God, here we go.
Oh, same thing. Oh,
the opposite.
With an AOL email address.
Let me mail this to my client for signatures.
They still have the AOL.
My broker's been gone for 22 years, but can you email my broker as well? Kevin, what about you? What's your experience on that?
Well, I mean, I do and I don't. Like, I do most of the time, unless it's like something I know that's going to do it anyway, like a good lender. And even then, that's like, what are you truthfully going to expect to get out of that from that standpoint? You know, like, they're going to tell you, oh, this person is really qualified. I've checked all their financials. I don't know that. I think it's a good idea, but I don't know that it like completely eliminates the risk.
it goes back to something that I think Sarah or Jeremy had said earlier, and it's about building that rapport and that relationship. Because if you do need something, hey, listen, this appraisal, we would love to see this get in 2 days earlier because the holiday's coming up and we really want to close by the end of the year. Having that kind of conversation and having a relationship with that lender is huge.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll say from my perspective, like I haven't had as many calls. Like I'll put forth that call to try to help my client, but I haven't had as many calls from listing agents as I used to validate clients. Maybe it's because I'm that awesome, or maybe it's just because people don't care anymore. I don't know. But I will say though that it's really nice though when I do get in contact with an agent that will grill me. Like, I know that sounds like a weird thing, but I would like, because then they're like, oh, you know what you're talking about.
Like
okay.
Yeah.
And then it makes them more confident. I mean, that might be a weird thing to say, but I will get like kind of going where Kevin was like, I don't know if it matters or not. I mean, if you do ask like those pointed questions or those specific questions, especially like, let's say if it's a condo, right? Like you want to know that your lender knows what's going on with the condo and how to get those approved and what they need to order.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've been in those situations before where it has been a benefit if they're really concerned about the property or if there's something special about the property, right? So
I do also work with a pretty heavy percentage of cash folks.
Oh.
as
Yeah,
well.
I was
So
going to say cash or
I don't use. I'd say I use probably more. I have more cash folks than
So you're you help a lot of bank robbers then.
I do. Yeah.
bank robbers and strippers.
They're in
entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Accountants.
Yeah,
They're called
okay.
accountants.
What did you call it?
Accountants. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's see. The questions about taxes. Is there a cap on taxes? I mean, there is, but there isn't. They can only raise it by what, 10%?
Well, it depends if you have a homestead exemption on your property.
Exactly. If it's homesteaded, it's as your primary residence, it's a 10% cap. What to look out for too, if you buy a property and the person you're buying it from has, hey Brandon, oh, my son Ryan has those pajamas too.
I have those pajamas too.
Yeah, I have them too.
Seriously.
No, but so what also tricks people up sometimes too, which is good to know, if you're buying a house and there's additional exemptions on the property, like if there's disability, if there's over 65, then you'll most likely see a big increase, you know, especially the over 65, because it was capped, right?
Yeah.
So that's the other safety, right? If you're over 65 buying a house, then it's great because it won't go up. The appraised value won't go up. But if you're buying from someone that is and you're not, then you're probably going to see a big increase in that appraised value of that home for taxes. And that's something to keep an eye on too. So you're not surprised.
Mostly, well, for resale, but you still have the
Right, for
unimproved
resale.
property for new construction.
Correct.
So yeah, your taxes are going to be more than the other person's, period.
But
Unless you're a veteran.
You did say your property
Well,
taxes can go up
100% disabled veteran, you mean?
Right. Well, you still get some. Well, right. 100%
It's really
disabled
small
veteran is
though.
perfect.
It's really, so
If you
I'm
are
nudging
100% disabled veteran and you desire purchasing a home, my gosh, let's make that. Make that happen. That's important.
Yeah, I think that's I've worked with, just this year alone, several 100% disabled, and you know the toughest part over this last year has been using a VA loan type, right?
Yeah.
But being that they've been able to do 100%, like they've been able to buy in communities that they probably wouldn't have, right? And so, I mean, $800,000 in a specific neighborhood isn't that bad when you don't have to pay $25,000 in taxes.
Right.
So for them, now the resale part of that's going to be a challenge, but you know, that's still, they're in a house and it's affordable, you know, whatever that price. I'm just saying 800 as an example. But let's move out of this. This one last question on this for Sarah. Someone purchases a primary residence, then moves 3 to 4 months later. How do lenders find out, and do they really prosecute for mortgage fraud?
So how this works. So first of all, if you move 3 to 4 months out after purchasing a home, it depends if you're selling it or if you're converting it, right? So if you're selling it, obviously they'll know because of the updated the deed and the updated recording. with the county. Like that will be a trigger. And they'll know because they'll no longer be collecting your loan payments. But if you're converting it to a rental property, then a couple of ways for someone to find that out is because your insurance has changed, your coverage has changed, your address to send everything to has changed. It's no longer there, and it's weird if you don't have your stuff sent to your primary residence. And then the mortgage company themselves doesn't go after you for mortgage fraud. That goes above that. But I mean, it's one of those things where you're rolling the dice, you know, do you want to risk fines and jail time, or do you not? Like, is it worth that, you know, half point or quarter point in rate? I mean, I don't think it is, but also to consider too, is that they do look into what the reason was. If you have a legitimate reason for buying a home and then having to move 3 to 4 months out, like a job relo or something like that, that's legitimate. Like, they're not going to come after you for that. But if it was like intent and plan, like, oh, this is definitely going to be investment property, but I'm going to just buy it as a primary residence so I can get a lower down payment, blah, 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 and then convert it later, then yeah, that's fraud. So, I mean, I'm not saying that they catch everyone that does it, but why do you want to risk it?
Risk it for the biscuit. Is that what they say? Is that a thing? Okay. So, yeah. So, all right, let's make a transition here because we've talked about that stuff for a while here. Let's talk about something that I found very interesting. Realtor.com put out this article talking about, and they actually put another one out today. I saw in the Business Journal about the 30 top markets. Guess who was not anywhere close to the 30 top markets for 2022? That was us. But, you know, so a lot of talk about the new variant that's coming out. And it's interesting to write an article talking, for me, you know, being that we're this far into this thing, to write an article talking about how it will impact the real estate market when we don't even really, I think, you know, without getting too political or into this too much, like we still don't have enough data yet on this variant to actually like say one way or the other, but to put out an article saying that, you know, here's all the things that could happen in the market. I just want to get your take on what you think the new variant might actually mean for the housing market starting this year.
Can I go first?
Yeah, please.
I don't think it means anything.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's,
elaborate, son.
I just think it's just like what Delta wasn't, and that was anything, you know, relative to what we're doing. I'm not saying it couldn't be like relevant, but relative to what we were doing, it didn't affect really anything. So I think it's going to be the same thing here. I don't know. I really don't want to launch into this politically, but I don't know. I think time will tell, but I don't think it's going to do anything at all.
Well, so what they're saying is that that one thing that they're saying is that the new variant might cause a higher demand for homes, particularly if it's more dangerous than recent variants, which I find kind of funny because so far the reporting is not that. But whatever, I don't know the full reporting. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a dude with a camera that sells homes. But I found that interesting. So do you think that this could cause more people to jump in the market to buy homes because of a new variant?
I personally don't. Like, the only thing that I see with the variant well, I guess like I'm more in the mortgage part, right? I'm not so much where y'all are with buying the homes, but I don't see how it could cause more demand to buy than there already is, or there already has been since we've been living with this so long, regardless of what variant it is. But I mean, if something were to happen where it was this crazy thing where we ended up being like in 2020, where we were, you know, no one could go into the office and we all had to be in our homes, and, you know, we had all these restrictions again, like it could cause rates to go down. But besides that, I mean,
what I have highlighted right here.
Oh,
mortgage
yeah.
rates could be affected. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the only thing as far as where my world is. Like, if it was this thing where we did have to go back to social distancing and all this other stuff and everyone had to stay home, then yes. Like, if it was that shutdown where everything was shut down, rates could go down. But besides that, I don't see that much of a change. Like, when actually it was interesting because in the market, when this first came out, it actually caused rates to go down a little bit. And then I think it was on the 6th where Africa came out and said, oh, well, it's not as bad as we thought it would be. It's actually not that big of a deal or something. And then the
more
stock
virulent,
started,
but not as harmful.
Yeah. And then stocks started recovering yesterday and today. And then rates started going up more. So that's where I see it on my end financially.
You know, the first case was actually detected in California, right?
Did you see the meme?
And it's already talking about moving to Austin.
It's already in Texas. Yeah, it's here. In Houston, right?
No, it's already talking about moving to Austin.
Yeah, no, I posted that on my Instagram today. That it was already in what Kevin said. It was already in California, but already decided to move to Austin.
Nice.
I think what Joe said here is pretty important too, because I mean, let's be honest, we've had a huge influx, a larger than previous years influx of people moving to the Austin area. And a lot of it was because of stuff happening in other states, right? Just the level of what happened in other states. So if they go full tilt back in some of these states, I mean, will it be the final straw, or people have all the people left that were going to leave, or is this going to actually push more people to leave? That I don't know. I think it's going to have zero bearing, maybe a % bearing on what's going to happen in 2022. What do you think, Kevin?
So I look at it kind of a hybrid of everyone's. I like what Joe just said, because it's regional, right? I mean,
that's a good point right here.
Texas is going to be very different than New York, I think, the housing market in general. And it kind of goes to Monica's point that people are buying based on where they have to be for as long as they know they have to be there. So if they know that they're going to be working a factory job and they will have to drive 20 to 30 miles or 20 to 30 minutes, then they're buying houses for that reason. And it's kind of the same thing the other way around. If you know that you're going to work from home indefinitely, that completely changes your strategy.
Yeah.
So I think those are the shifts that will matter. But the companies themselves, they've learned how to deal. They've mostly learned how to deal with it.
Dinosaur D, I think that's just called Houston. I don't know that there's a difference between Houston and sewage. So
yeah.
Yeah. So all right. So that being said, I mean, we got through that article pretty without anybody getting hurt. What about so mortgage rates for next year predicted to go up? Redfin says that we're going to have a more balanced market next year in 2022. They said there's going to be the beginning of the year is going to be crazy. The middle of the year will slow down. Obviously, all the stuff we've been talking about. I want to get your take from everybody that's here. Look, we don't have the crystal ball, obviously, but based on what you've seen over the last year, based on what you're seeing right now in the market, I mean, what do you anticipate seeing actually happen this year? And we all could be wrong, but hopefully we all have different opinions, and then one of us is right. Kevin, go ahead.
Redfin, more like red flag. I'm not. I don't like extrapolated data that doesn't follow the trend. And I think that if you want to reference the article that you're talking about, where Redfin predicted some of this activity for next year, they literally just randomly put points
10.
on a graph, and that's not even extrapolation, y'all. They literally just drew lines and said that this is what we think is going to happen. Do you realize how dumb that is?
They did 10 predictions here, though.
I don't believe
10
I don't believe
predictions.
I literally don't believe any when somebody says that they can pinpoint any number, like
number 10.
I just stop listening to them at that point. Like you could tell me here, I'll give you a good example. You know exactly how much money that you make per year as a salary. I bet it would be impossible for you to predict what your bank account will be in 12 months. I'm just going to tell you that, even though you know exactly where that data is going and it's less variable. Because it's just hard to do that. I would love to go back if I really gave a crap, and I don't. I would take these articles and I would check a year from now and see how dumb that they were and how wrong they actually were. But I don't care that much. But yeah,
you just do that now for their former articles. I guess it's hard for 2020.
Yeah, it's hard because it's changed so much. But yeah, I think it's dumb.
I don't see it. Like, I read the article. I mean, as far as like kind of balancing out slowdown, I mean, I think we've already talked about it. It's all about supply and demand. It's all about like how quickly can builders put homes out there, and if people like where is this inventory going to come from for things to slow down? If anything, we're going to have more buyers in the market because of the higher loan amounts, loan limits, and more people are coming to the market as first-time home buyers, as we saw at the birth chart, that's coming along. And I think the main question is like, where's the inventory coming from? As we talked earlier, there's a lot of housing starts, but when are they going to end? Like, when are they going to be completed? We're already looking at 2023 for a lot of those. And if people are going to sell, where are they going to go? They need to be able to afford the places they're going to buy. Unless they die, then, that's not a problem. But I don't think we foresee a lot of, I don't know. Sorry, that took a dark turn. But I think, it's nice that it's not as there's a little bit more inventory in the market, but I think people are like, oh, there's more inventory.
But
and
there's
it's
not.
like,
Right now that's the thing is like everybody is being told there's more inventory. The guy from Bloomberg that came out told me, oh, there's so much inventory. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like what inventory? And I literally pulled over on the side of the road. He took more time in his article to talk about what my videographer, Jaden, was wearing than the actual conversation we had, which was a 4-hour drive conversation. Sorry. But I pulled over and I go, okay, look, here's the MLS. I literally got on my phone, used my phone Bluetooth to show him on my laptop how much inventory we actually had. And then I showed him how much builder inventory we actually had. And I started clicking on all the inventory, showing him that what was not actually available, that was available. So if you think about it, 3,400 units, 900 of those were actually new build. Nothing was closing in the next 3 months. So what is that? That's 35-40% almost of the inventory that we have, not even really available. And then on top of that 30 at the time was 3,800 units. That 3,800 units, 400 of those weren't even really our MLS. So what inventory are people talking about?
That's what I was wondering when I was looking at everything. Everyone's like, oh, more inventory. I'm like, technically there's like more than maybe like the start of 2021, but I don't think there's like all this amazing amounts of inventory that's going to solve all these problems and cause housing to slow down. But I thought it was really funny. Was that question point number 10 that you were laughing about y'all's commission?
Yeah.
And how y'all get paid?
I saw that.
I was what?
What is it? 40,000 new realtors a year or something like that. There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
That also, these articles, when they predict the housing market, they're trying to generalize our national market, which
Yeah.
like anything out, I could give a shit about anything outside of our Austin market, to be honest with you.
And then Richmond came out with an article right after that talking about the 30 best markets for 2022, and Austin was not even on the 30 best markets. But they were saying, okay, all these markets are going to have 13%, 12% increases.
In terms of appreciation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And look, Austin saw a huge, who here is going to say that Austin's going to have another 40% year next year?
No, it can't happen, and it won't happen, and that's okay.
It's a good one. A good one.
To answer Dinosaur D's question too, by the way, I already have that. I am officially
nice.
I am officially Lord Kevin Michael Knight.
Oh, I love that. That's
I'm a knight, so I'm already there.
Oh,
I don't need to be a lord.
He's a knight and a lord. He's a lord knight.
So Ian, I don't think we got your take. What's going to happen in 2022? I want to hear your bold prediction.
So I like there's the note that there are a lot more realtors. There's the data points, just the fact that they're pulling the numbers together and the last 2 years, we can't really count that for data. I have to hold out. I have to reserve judgment. I don't have any answers. I don't think they're right, but that's just because I don't like them, and I don't like anything that they've shown. But that's not based on any factual information. I kind of lump them in with, like Kevin said, they're very generalized. I kind of lump them in with your Zillow and your Open Door, and you see where those are going right now.
Well, I did a video today, just a short talking about that alone. Joe made fun of the commissions. We talk about commissions. Here's the one thing that I think people need to understand about Zillow, about these iBuyer programs, and these people that basically do things at a cut rate commission, right? They cut their commissions. Here's the deal. Those people go out of business because this is not a cheap business to be in. It is a very expensive building. Overhead costs are always high. Everything's expensive. It's not cheap. And so if you're going to cut costs or hire people that are not very smart about what they're doing, i.e. Zillow, hiring all these people to just buy homes because they anticipated the market to continue to go crazy. Yeah, these iBuyers are having trouble right now selling homes. I've seen them. There's a lot of them on the market. And why are they having problems selling homes? Because they bought them expensive. They're trying to sell them expensive.
I have two questions. One, how many of you know someone who is living with someone else and cannot wait for them to leave? Question number one.
Do you want to ask my first wife or my second wife?
But I'm saying, like, I ran into a woman today, and she was saying that she was like, I'm living with my son. I need to move out. I can't wait. I signed the new bill, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, cool. So that was one. And then I think the second question is, how many people have you run into and they're like, you know what? I think I'm going to become a realtor or get into real estate is how they say it. It's like every other person you talk to, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to get into real estate. You know, I'm thinking about getting my license. It's like, yeah.
I hear lenders tell me all the time. Everybody's like, I'm going to sell real estate. I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've talked to some people. I have that conversation. I'm sure you guys do too with a lot of people. I've talked some people out of it, but I do think some people would be right for it. I think some people I talk to would be better at it than some of the people I've had to interact with.
There's some people though, like especially when the rates got really low, like everyone decided to be a lender. Like there's a lot of people that decided to go into lending to get the refi boom, right? And there was a lot of people that were other positions in mortgage, like a process or whatever. That was like, oh, I'm going to do this. It's easy now. And then after like refi started drying up or it started being more competitive, they didn't realize how hard it is because our job is actually really difficult. You have to know a lot and keep on top of it to be any good. But also it's just like, it's not easy. It's not like you're going to get people calling you every 2 seconds and it's just like money rolling in the door and people think that's what it is and it's not. And
I think if you're thinking about that or you've told somebody that if you don't like people, like, I mean, love people, you're around, you work with people for a living, right? You can try to automate it, but you see how that's working out for some of these things, right? So if you don't like people and you think that you're going to have a lot of freedom, don't even start. Don't even try.
This is a people business more than anything, I would say. It's just, it's a people business. That's the product.
Yeah. And you're not going to have, if you just want steady, like 9 to 5 or something like that, no, don't expect that either.
But
I mean, also, maybe in years, like you can set up a business that way, but you're not starting that way, right? You're scrubbing.
Right. Exactly.
I also would be asinine to actually predict that it wouldn't rise. Like, I don't know what the interest rates are going to do next year.
Oh, is that what we're talking about, interest rates?
Well, I mean, I don't know if they're going to stay low. I don't know if they're going to stay high. I don't know if we're going to have huge. All I can do is what we all do is I think we do a pretty good job of keeping our pulse on what's going on today. And we can tell you what's currently happening and advise you on what you should do today. But just like everything else in life, I don't think you should live in the past or the future. I think you should just take the present as it is. And
here's the thing I'll say about next year. There's a lot of things that make me nervous. And I have to say, the times that I've been nervous, I've been wrong.
Interesting.
Okay. 2022 makes me nervous because you hear of rates going up. It can't get any more expensive than it is now. The market's going to crash. You have all these people like, inflation, all this stuff. Now, back in the beginning of when the Cafifa started, I had the opportunity to buy another investment property in a neighborhood, and we were under contract on it, and we just decided to back out because I was like, man, nobody's going to want to move here and rent and all of this stuff. And all of a sudden it was wrong. I even said, I've said earlier this year that this year we would see a lot of people potentially having to foreclose or have issues because of property taxes going up. Now, I've not seen any data. I've not seen the tax district come out. Nobody's writing articles on the fact that taxes are hurting people. So I don't know. We'll see. The other thing is, we all thought that the market was going to crash because of forbearance.
Mhm.
Wrong.
So,
But when I look at trend, but that's because I'm putting my head up and listening to the fear. When I put my head down and look at the data points, when I look at the numbers, there's nothing like I'm just going to tell myself to continue to buy, and here's why. If I'm listening to all the scare tactics and the scares, the problem is when we're listening to all the scares, people are pricing in the scares into their purchases, right? Whether they're getting FOMO, whether they're, the market's going to crash, so they're going to wait, so they're waiting. So people are listening to this stuff. And so what I think is going to happen is that we will have just a 2019 year in 2022. It's going to be that same thing that's going to happen. We're going to have all these blah, 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 blah. Inventory is not going to get, I don't think inventory is going to be back to 3-month inventory. It might be 1.8 months, maybe back to 2, but we're going to see a leveling, and we're not going to see this craziness that we saw this year. So if I put my looking at the actual data, I don't think it's going to be as crazy as people think it's going to be.
I'm with you, Jerome.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I definitely think that rates are probably going to be where they were in 2019. That was
I don't
back
think
to
they
that
are.
article.
I honestly think rates are going to say, what are rates right now? If I were to say, Sarah, I'm going to buy a single family home right now. I've got an 820 credit score, or what did we say? Either 10,000 credit score. I'm not buying any points. I'm buying under the jumbo loan mark. What would a 20%, 25% conventional loan be right now?
You'd probably be looking at somewhere at like a 3.25 to a 3.125.
Okay. I don't think rates get over 3.68 or 3.7.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, I think they're going to gradually go up this year, but if for the excellent borrower, I think it'll be like mid, maybe high threes, depending how how inflation is treated by the Fed. Yeah.
I want to say that there's going to be a test, right? So they might, it's variable, right? So I feel like it's going to spike and then come back down and spike and come back down. I'm curious if it's going to do that.
If you pay attention to every day, it does.
3.6. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like above your 3.6. So one day it's 3.9, 4.4, and it's like, whoa. And people, and then just to, kind of test the waters.
Can I ask a dumb question? I haven't thought about this at all, so this is very risky. Why do mortgage rates change every day?
They can change every hour.
Well, why?
Why does the value of the dollar change every day?
I know, but why does
Bitcoin go down every day?
That's what I'm saying. Like it's all,
but it's different. Why is a mortgage rate? It's a commitment of 30 years. Why does that change by the hour?
But the interest is based on how much they think they're going to profit, right?
So it goes
and that's based on the value of the dollar at the moment.
And it goes off of, so basically we base it off of the bond market. So it's how bonds and mortgage-backed securities are trading. So it depends on what's happening with that, and that influences the rate of the day. And so if there is like significant, like everyone prices a little bit different. You'll have some lenders that will come out and they'll have one price for the whole day. You'll have some that will update their pricing hourly with the market. And you'll have some that only change their pricing that day, depending on how much of a fluctuation there were. And it could have better or worse, depending. And it's based off of news. A lot of the time, it's based off of certain auctions, how the auction went that day. If there's like a news item that came out, like I was saying the last 2 days, like how there was that one news article about, the variant, according to, Africa, it's not as bad as was being predicted. So then
when they announce the next variant, I'm going to lock in my rate for the next one. I think that's what I'm going to do.
Yep.
You really should, because it's that temporary.
Yeah.
But honestly, like it was so interesting because starting with the last presidency, the rates were so much more influenced by news than in past. And it was like, and they were so trigger happy according to like these like articles and just like these headlines. And it usually wasn't that as much in the past. And so that's what was interesting to me. But yeah, based off of the mortgage-backed securities and treasuries and how those auctions are doing and everything else, Kevin, like that determines and influences the rate for the day. And it has to do with the secondary market and
But the
blah, blah,
reason
blah.
is what Dinosaur D said. It creates uncertainty and it forces people to make decisions because you never know if today's the best day that you're going to get an interest rate. That's why.
Right. And then when we lock that in for you, it's like a promise. And so we're projecting that by the time you close, like that should be about where rates are with. And then there's like, you know, with how much we would be able to make on the, like not we, but the company would be able to make off the loan and everything else. There's a lot more math that goes into it than I'm privy to because that's a whole different department. But that's kind of in layman's terms what that looks like.
Oh man, I could do a whole like conspiracy video on all this stuff. I love
On
it.
the student loan or on?
No, on all this stuff, like the fact that, you know, we consider people that have less financial qualification to be higher risk. Therefore, we charge them higher interest rates, making it harder for them to actually make their payments. I mean, go figure, right?
That's not right.
I mean, it's what happens.
Joe, we'll answer your question. Give us a second. We're having fun over here. How much do you think? And everybody, thank you for all the comments. It makes it so nice when we have things to talk about, other than the dumb stuff in the news, like Kevin didn't show us his mullet today, right?
I haven't shown my mullet today, by the way.
Yeah, he has not. What about this? I did they actually do this? How do you think the end of student loan forgiveness will impact potential buyers? Is that a thing? I haven't paid attention to this at all.
This has come up with my refi clients where they're doing cash out refis and they're debating if they should pay off their student loans or not because they're banking if they're going to be forgiven. Ooh. I had a couple that couldn't decide. So he's getting his loans paid off with the cash out and she's not because she's banking on, you know, the fact that they're going to be forgiven. And it's really interesting. And I mean, I don't know if that's something that's ever actually going to happen, but what do y'all think?
I mean, I think it's when it comes to stuff like that, I think it's more of talking points versus actual action. So I don't think, I mean,
I feel like
it's actually going to happen. Yeah.
No matter what, the money is going to come from somewhere and you're going to pay it.
Yeah.
And if anything, right now, we've spent too much money on programs and other things like that. We need to combat inflation, not make it worse.
Really? So doing things like Build Back Better, Bill, would actually add inflation? Because I heard it's paid for.
Hold on.
This is Brandon wrote this.
The Build Back Better bill. Let's
Sarah Google it and then we'll answer this question. Can someone answer the property question? I looked in the area in Leander that starts with a T. Oh man, that must not be a fun place to live. And ends with an O. Travago? Is that a place?
Yeah.
What's with the wrought iron fences? No privacy. I'll let somebody else talk about their love for Trabasso.
So oftentimes, Joe, if you see that, I mean, it depends on the development. It depends on the builder, but a lot of times you see that, and is that particular property on a green space, back up to a green space, like a walking trail or anything like that? That's one of the questions I would have. And the reason why is because, I don't know, they want people to sit back on their patio and wave at everybody walking by and love each other in the community.
Kevin, have you been through Treviso and seen this madness?
Rimrock is the same way.
Rimrock.
Only wrought iron? It's not only.
Yeah.
Only wrought iron. So Rimrock, Rimrock, they don't even do fences. The same thing with, it's right here next to my house. I can't believe I'm, but Parton Ranch, Reunion Ranch, a lot of places in Rough Hollow. Mm-hmm. They either don't put in fencing at all, or if you put in fencing, it's got to be wrought iron fencing. So when you want to go walk naked into your pool, you walk out and everybody that's to your left, right for 15 doors down can see you standing in your backyard. That's why I live in my neighborhood and will never move. I like to walk naked right out to my pool, you know?
I do too.
Hey, you guys want to come over and go swimming?
I still would do it with wrought iron fences because I just don't care.
But yeah, it's the developer puts that in there, and so that's what the developer wants, and that's partly why I don't like neighborhoods like that. Yeah. I love Parton Ranch on its face. I love Parton Ranch, but two things about Parton Ranch I just can't get over: wrought iron fencing. You're going to spend $60,000 putting up plants or whatever to block off all your neighbors so people can't see you. That's, I mean, 60,000 sounds high, but I put in $4,000 a plant that only went like 10 feet. So yeah, it's expensive.
And the stone is cheaper than the iron, right?
But you can't, but for the developer, you can't put it, it's got to be wrought iron fencing between. You can put bushes up, which, but you can't, unless they allow you to put like slats. I saw a community in, not Avery Ranch, Brushy Creek that did that. You could put the wood slats in. People got mad at somebody that did it, but HOA allowed it.
Let me ask a question about the stimulus bill, the infrastructure bill. Theoretically speaking, I don't have the answer to this either. This is all coming right off the top. Like, if they printed money, but the money is not consumer side money, it's infrastructure side money, does that really affect inflation at all?
Say it again. Sorry, I was reading this comment.
If the government prints money, but it's if it's not consumer sided money, right? If it doesn't affect the direct value of goods and services, technically that wouldn't affect inflation in a way that would be meaningful for us. So why is it considered bad and inflationary for them to print money if they could just print money to improve infrastructure projects? That only helps, creates jobs.
Would that devalue the dollar though? More money in the circulation?
I don't think it does. If you look at how much debt our country has carried for decades and decades and decades, that hasn't affected it either. It hasn't caused economic collapse. So I would argue that the only thing that really causes inflation is the end users buying ability for daily goods, services, daily asset like a car becoming more expensive or whatever. But if you're just building roads with it, then why wouldn't you just print as much money as you want to just build the roads? I don't have the answer to this question. I'm just thinking.
Well, I mean, I think part of the problem with what we're seeing right now is just the supply chain is causing this bottleneck, which is also adding to inflation, right? Like if I want to go buy a really cool Porsche, I can't do it because it's going to take forever for either one to get to the dealership, or if I try to build it, it's going to take 16 months, 18 months, right?
Oh, we're on chicken tender shortage now is coming. Did you hear that?
Chicken tenders.
Really?
Yeah.
Wings were already in shortage, and I heard tenders are coming. Oh, I heard one of the reasons behind that is because they switched to a genetically modified rooster, by the way. That killed half the eggs that it would fertilize.
Well, think about it too. Every time they come out and say, "Oh, everybody's buying up toilet paper," what does everybody go do? Buy up toilet paper. Oh, everybody's buying up Bitcoin. Everybody buys up Bitcoin. Oh, everybody's going to buy in Shiba Inu. Boom, it's sold. Like, oh my God, it went up 0.001% today. That's so freaking amazing. Everybody's buying stocks. Everybody goes out and buys stocks. I mean, the media is just telling us what to go buy. I mean, are they in cahoots with Johnson & Johnson to buy freaking butt wipes? I mean, what's the deal?
Yeah. I wouldn't doubt it. Anyways, we're getting derailed. I'm sorry. My economics brain is going off here. So
sorry.
My apologies, guys.
It's a good question, though.
It's modern monetary theory is what it is.
I just don't see how the Austin area can't. I mean, look, we're going to we'll have a depreciating year, 2, 3 years, 4 years, maybe. But over a 10-year time span, we have too much going on in Austin. We just have way too much coming here.
Well, and it's also like you said, like look at the data, right, over the years, and we've only been slowly increasing over time. Like even in 2008, we weren't hit very hard here. Like we were lucky, and so I think the fact that we do have such a strong market here, and we have for so long, I don't foresee us like seeing a big like decrease.
Is that Kevin? Do you get all your Shiba Inu news from your hairdresser?
Yes, I get it actually from my clerk at HEB.
Oh yeah, they know what's up.
No, if I'm mentioning to them like NFTs and metaverse, if they're absolutely clueless, that means I'm doing the right thing. Like I'm going to spend more money on this. If you have no idea, if I can't even explain to you what's going on here, then trust me, I'm in the right spot right now. Anyways,
isn't that the truth?
All right, guys, I'm going to take off.
All right, let's go there. Sarah, it was wonderful having you. Ian, any last words?
It's wonderful having me too.